at this. This represents the fertilized egg, okay? That's the nucleus of the cell. There's a cytoplasm. That represents sperm. Actually, it's not quite accurate because the sperm, usually the head comes in and the tail is left on the outside. It's going to degenerate. So the important part is the head that contains the male chromosome. But notice how small the sperm is relative to the egg. So they said, most of the cytoplasm that makes up that diploid zygote is from the egg. And that's where the organelles came from, for all of us. All our organelles are derivatives, okay, of our mother's egg cell organelles, not the sperm. Sperm is just a vehicle to get the male chromosomes into the egg. Okay? And when I say shed excess cytoplasm, you can see there's not much cytoplasm in that sperm cell. It's a head with a nucleus, male chromosomes, the acrosome, a midpiece which contains a lot of mitochondria to power the movement of the flagella. That's all it is. You've got to get those chromosomes into the egg. That's the purpose of the sperm cell. Okay? Then it starts to divide by mitosis, 2-cell stage, 4-cell stage, 8-cell. Well, this only has 7 because one hasn't completed. Okay? So they say, well, this is wrong. You know? It only got 7. It just hasn't finished. All right? Then it goes to 16, 32, 64, 128, to 256, 512, 1024, 2048. Keeps increasing by multiples of 2. Now it reaches a certain stage, where it's about a 32-cell stage, solid ball of cells. What do we call that? That's the morula, which means berry. Sort of looks like a berry, okay? Maybe a raspberry or blackberry, whatever, okay? And then eventually, continues to divide, and now you have a hollow inside the cell, or inside the embryo. What's this stage called? This is the blastocyst. The old name is blastula. This is the stage the embryo's in when it emerges from the oviduct in the uterine cavity. This is also the stage the embryo's in when it implants a uterine lining. Okay? Early development of the embryo, which occurs in the oviduct, the cells are increasing in number, obviously. You're getting more cells, but you're getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Okay? And that's why there's not much change in the embryo. What do we call that? Increase in cell number with getting smaller cells and no appreciable increase in the size of the embryo. What do we call that? Cleavage. Okay, and that's what's going on in the female oviduct. Cleavage. Okay? Like I say, then what comes out of the oviduct? Blastocyst. And again, that's the stage that implants in uterine lining. Cells on the outside are called what? Individually have blastomeres, but this layer of cells we call the trophoblasts. What's so important about the trophoblasts? What does it produce? HCG. It's the source of human chorionic gonadotropin, which, like LH, maintains the corpus luteum. Keeps producing the corpus luteum progesterone, which maintains endometrial lining and keeps this guy happy, okay? Because if that endometrium sloughs off, embryo goes with it. You got a miscarriage or spontaneous abortion. What's the yellow stuff in here? What do you call that? That's the inner cell mass. That's the embryo, okay? Eventually it's going to flatten out into a bilayered embryonic disc, which you can see here, okay? This is after implantation. So it implants, still about the same size as a fertilized egg, and then it starts to enlarge. We're still in the blastocyst stage, but you can see it's starting to basically develop, getting bigger and bigger, okay? And then a very important phase happens, which they don't show. We don't have the models for it, called gastrulation. And the stage is called the gastrule. What's so important about gastrulation? What are everybody scientists so excited about? Major phase, okay? 3 important phases in human life. Birth, death, and gastrulation. What occurs? Gastrulation. The formation of 3 primary germ layers, which you should know for this exam and for the final. Ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. These give rise to all the tissues and organs in the body. Ectoderm, basically things on the outside. Epidermis, the skin, the nervous system, the sensory receptors associated with the skin, hair, nails, okay, sweat, oil glands, and so on, okay? Mesoderm gives rise to things sort of in the middle of the body, most of your connective tissue, your muscles, okay, your blood vessels, heart, blood vessels. also your reproductive system, your skeletal system, okay? All this stuff. And then the inside organs, internal organs, many of them, come from endoderm. And this would be GI tract, the liver, the pancreas, respiratory tract, and that common passageway they share, the pharynx, which is the throat. Remember? Pharynx carries both air and also food and drink as well. Okay? You should know that. I could ask you some examples, and certainly for the final exam. That's as far as we go then with the embryonic development. All right? And know that. Okay, menstrual cycle, you should know the menstrual cycle and those hormones involved. What's the hormone that stimulates release of the gonadotropics, FSH and LH? It's a hypothalamic hormone. What is it? Gonadotropin releasing hormone, okay? Which is released by the hypothalamus. That stimulates the release of FSH and LH by the pituitary. And what cells in the pituitary? Basophil cells, which are located in what part of the pituitary? Anterior, okay? The adenohypophysis, okay? And then know the cycle, okay? What hormone basically is associated with ovulation? The other one. LH. Did you see LH first? Okay, it's LH, okay? It's that surge in LH, about mid-cycle, about day 13, and the next day usually ovulation, about day 14. Okay? So go through, make sure you understand that. And again, the trophoblast cells produce HCG to maintain the endometrium, indirectly by HCG maintaining the corpus luteum, which maintains the endometrium. And then you should know the extramaric membranes, okay? We got 4 of them. What's the outermost membrane around the embryo? This is right here. What is this? What do you call that? Develops from the trophoblast. Chorion. Eventually, you get these finger-like projections come off it, called chorionic villi. That's the embryonic component of the placenta. Placenta, remember? You have folds, the chorionic villi, interlocking with folds of the endometrium, the mother. That makes up the placenta. That's where you get exchange between the embryo and fetus and the mother. Okay, nutrients going in and oxygen going in, waste products including carbon dioxide coming out. Okay, so the embryonic component of the placenta, chorionic villi. Chorion develops from the trophoblast. So trophoblast not only secretes HCG, it develops in the chorion, and it's the chorionic villi that make up part of the placenta. Okay, you see here, chorionic villi. You can see it's very well developed here. So the placenta will be right in here. Okay, so that's the chorion. There's also a membrane that completely surrounds, develops the embryo, grows around it. What's that called? The amnion. Okay, it starts out here. It's in orange, which unfortunately, if you look at your textbook, you show it in blue. Okay, but anyway, that's the amnion. And right below it is a third extramaric membrane, which is the yolk sac. Okay, the embryo is actually between. This part is going to be a bilayered embryonic disc. Okay, when you see what's happening is the amnion is growing around the embryo. The embryo is right here, so it's kind of growing around it. Eventually, it's going to completely envelop it. It's shown here, plastic, like so. It secretes fluid, amniotic fluid, that protects the embryo. And the amnion is sometimes called the bag of waters. This woman's about to give birth, that breaks, amniotic fluid passes into the uterus, out of the vagina, the water breaks, so to speak. She knows birth is close at hand. Okay, you can see the amnion continues to grow, and then amnion grows. And the amnion grows as the embryo grows. You see right there. Okay, so that's the amnion. The third one is the yolk sac, which we saw here, and here. Now in vertebrate embryos, where the embryo develops outside the body of the mother, especially like in reptiles and birds, the yolk sac is a major source of nutrients. So like in a chicken egg or bird egg, the yolk basically is a source of nutrients for that embryo. Okay? If you end up with a fertilized egg and it starts to develop, you open it up and it's full of blood, that yolk sac is actually providing the nutrients for that developing embryo. Okay? Now, most eggs we eat, of course, are not fertilized. It grows most people out if they open up with an embryo inside. Anyway, that's where it comes from. Now, in our case, placental mammals, what's the yolk sac do? It's not a source of nutrients. We have very little yolk. So what does it do? What's the function? What? Say again? Yes, it's a source of blood cells and blood vessels, okay? And what else? It forms the embryonic gut. It becomes a GI tract, okay? But it's not a source of nutrients. That's the placenta that provides the nutrients in our case. So it's a blood cells, blood vessels, and the GI tract of the gut. Now the fourth membrane doesn't show in these models. It kind of buds off. You see it here. It buds off the yolk sac. See it here and here. That's called the allantois. This gives rise, helps to form part of the structure of the umbilical cord, which of course is the cord that ties the placenta to the embryo, as you know. And also, it usually is develops into the urinary bladder, or part of the urinary bladder, the allantois. Those are the four membranes. Make sure you can identify those and you know the structure. And that's as far as we go.